Welcome. Today I'm joined by Ryan Grant, founder of Property Flute and BC Strata Tech, talking about building communities that actually work. I'm Tom Beattie, and this is the power of participation. Welcome, Ryan.
Hello, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really glad to be here. It's an important subject and continues on the theme of making stratas work better, which is obviously something that we're both passionate about. Maybe you can tell
Yes.
everyone a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into the slides.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Ryan Grant. I'm the co-founder of Property Flute and BC Strata Tech. Uh, my background is and how I got into strata stuff is that I bought a strata unit in 2017, and I really wanted to understand, how to protect my investment in my home and become more of my community. While I worked, a day job, I also got more involved with getting to know my neighbors and the council members, and uh, I waited about a year because when I bought in, they just had their AGM, and I didn't want to try and jump on right away if I don't really know what I'm doing, right? And stir the pot. So I let them kind of run the show again for a year while I just got to become more familiar with my neighbors. And then I realized, hey, you know what? People think that I'd be a good candidate. And I jumped on board in 2018 and kind of started my journey on and off for about 4 years that I've been on council at my place to really become more involved and be active and learn more about stratas and how to really optimize them and be more efficient. But my day job at the time, I have a tech background. I worked for some startups and then also for the Fortune 500 companies as well. And then I transitioned into becoming a father and decided that I wanted to do that more than I wanted to do my day job. So I decided around 2020 to work on Property Flute quite aggressively with my other co-founders. And what we do is strata media management and voting solutions. And we saw during COVID that it would be a really good, opportunity to try and fill this gap for the market where there wasn't a proper voting solution in place or service that could help these stratas run these meetings effectively remotely. And since then, we've been helping stratas run virtual meetings with our custom made solution. So they're not just using Zoom. Um, we cater to all sorts of scenarios. So if they want to do hybrid or in-person meetings only, we can do that and bring our voting solution to help them make sure that their meeting is going to be run effectively. And then for BC Stratotech, it's something that's more of a passion project for us. We run that event annually, typically, although this year we're kind of going more with a regular updates and podcasts and stuff, just like this webinar, where we showcase BC tailored solutions, right? So we go around and interview different companies that are creating strata solutions and are really good for the overall lifespan of stratas and trying to improve them and make them more efficient. So we go and showcase those. Plus, we like to be holistic in the sense of interviewing other industry experts about different topics. So lawyers and the CRT will bring on, and just other big players in the industry that have a lot of great things to share for stratas. And
Perfect.
that's my
And that
background.
brings us into the whole element of participation. Um,
Yes.
why don't you take it away and talk about how this
Yeah.
really comes to be?
So the reason why I think this is a great topic for me is that again, I went through it myself, having to learn and understand what it even means to live in a strata and what that really takes. And then it was a big eye opener once I started to see what is lacking in the industry and with regulations and stuff. And that it's very important that people get involved more in their stratas, right? To try and operate them, because that's your home and your investment, right? For most people, this is probably most of their life savings is going into their home. So you want it to be protected, right? So that's why it's really important to be involved. And we'll show through some other data on further slides in the presentation that really emphasize why it's so important to be part of your community, right? And making sure that it's operating correctly.
Excellent. Excellent. So we've covered some of the background. Why don't you tell us about the participation crisis?
Yeah. So first, before you'll see all these things there on the slide, but what you may not fully notice is the background picture. So I tried to incorporate some fun into my presentation with the background images. So in this one, it really hits home because you see a really nice scenic view and there's some empty chairs, right? So why is nobody there? Right? It's a beautiful place. It has potential to be so much more and be enjoyed by many, and that's some of the state for a few stratas in the province, right? Where they have the potential to be an amazing property and complex and community, but the people are not engaged, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to kind of point out is like, look, you can have an amazing place and community if people get more involved. So here's the stats, right? We got nearly 35,000 strata corporations and growing, and the province wants to accelerate that, double it very quickly. So they're really wanting to expand strata housing, but one issue I see is that in the data, it shows roughly 64% are very small stratas. And small stratas typically don't have the funds to be able to afford a property manager. The management industry is quite tight right now. So the smaller stratas tend to have to either pay a really large premium to get that type of expertise, or they have to effectively self-manage, which they're already doing. And in there, there's a whole bunch of stratas that don't even understand what a strata is. So usually the duplexes, they don't quite understand that they're even a strata or know what
Yeah.
that means, right? So
Hmm.
they're the realtors and stuff didn't maybe explain all the things that go on, with a strata, what the framework means, and these people just kind of run the show with the other co-owner in that other unit, just more of like handshake deals and discussions. They don't do any council meetings and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So they're the ones that are the most vulnerable when they're not following the framework of the Strat Property Act that they're bound to. Then we
Exactly.
get into
And
things like you know the inflation problems, right? Why the engagement is so much necessary now. People need to watch their spending, right? Inflation's going up, and the buyer's market is here, where now there's so many units flooding kind of the market, and it's competitive, right? If you put your house up for sale, it's there's going to be people looking around and scrutinizing your complex versus others, unlike it was a few years ago, right? So now
yeah,
you do
yeah.
have to pay more attention to managing your complex. And the strata needs those participation skills from everybody. So not even council members, but owners helping the council members too, right? So just because you have a council doesn't mean that you as an owner or resident don't have to do some minimal things to help out, right? It's good if you try and help out as well. Then
So
we, yeah,
you know that we lag behind.
yes.
What are we going to do?
So we're basically right now in a conundrum where we don't have enough qualified education programs in place to teach people. We don't have council training that's mandatory, and some of those
Yeah.
things are hot topics right now where people think like, do we need those? Do we need to have a larger program for the strata managers, like a master's degree or something like that, right? Or council training, does it need to be a mandatory thing when you join a council that you take some sort of government approved program 101 course? And there's pros and cons to thinking that. Ontario right now is something we can look at, and they've put it in place where there is more management courses available for the strata managers, but the councils also have a mandatory course. People have reviewed it and said that it's not the best, right? It's a good start, but it just doesn't. It's not very effective. It takes like an hour or two to get through their program allegedly, and it's mostly like just like click through. So it's not as valuable as a proper kind of 101 intro course should be. But at least it's a start, right? It's better than probably nothing.
A start
So
is great, and it's hard enough to get people engaged. If you set them up for
yeah,
some sort of long course or requirements, it's just going to make it even more difficult to get these 35,000 stratas properly
yes.
staffed with strata council members.
No, exactly, right? So that's why it's a pro and con, right? People buy into a house and they don't want to get into this whole framework and understand what it means, right?
But you are
It's
managing a significant asset. I mean,
yeah,
it's a significant asset for you, even if it's a duplex. It's a significant asset for the community if you're talking about a
yes,
multi-million dollar building
with a budget
strata
too.
complex. Yeah, exactly.
Right, but
Exactly.
yeah, people, it's awkward because people don't buy into a home to do that, right? They're not passionate about running a complex, and they don't understand that. But that's what you're getting into when you buy into a strata. You need to do some of that ground level work, right, to operate it and protect your investment. So
Yeah.
again, what's available today? Well, we're not left completely stranded. We have amazing assistance from the associations such as CHOA or VIZOA, CCI or BC Stratotech or SPA BC or PAMA, all these players in the industry that are helping provide some content to strata owners, and especially those memberships that you can buy from Joa or Vizoa. They can really add a lot of value to your strata. It's very
Yeah.
overall cheap, right? The strata could buy the membership for I don't know, 150 bucks or 200 bucks, whatever it is, and that lasts them, the whole year to be able to go and ask questions and go through some of the more premium content that they may have for free on their websites that give them some training, right? And then they can also pay for those additional workshops, which is usually trivial, like 20 bucks or 40 bucks or even free. So there is content, but you have to go out and seek it, right? You have to be looking for the content and know what to look for, and try and educate yourself. So it is something that council members need to proactively kind of do, right, and try and pick that up as a habit. And
Yeah.
then technology, right? They could bring in technology to help them with their day-to-day operations or
For sure. We're back to that.
services. Yeah, so technology is out there, right, where maybe people don't understand how to fill out different forms, like the Form Bs and Form Ks and all that type of stuff, and don't have that structure. So they can use platforms like PowerStrata or StrataPress to try and alleviate some of those issues, right? They don't have to go and do all the homework for those forms. They can usually use platforms that have templates and really streamline those things, or store documents. Like StrataPress is amazing for that. They store so many types of documents and help with that process. When people want to sell their unit, they can easily be able to give documents to their realtor through that. So that really helps
I love
kind
the
of
way that you
alleviate
can
those
switch
issues.
managers if you're lucky enough to have one and
That
just
too.
have it be the click of a button and not the whole handoff process that in years gone
Yes.
by led
And
to, lost or
well,
missing documents.
I've seen that through some of the clients that we have, and just being on the forums, seeing what people say, and there's usually two types of groups. There's groups where the management company uses the software themselves, and it's an
Yeah.
easy thing to switch, or the council act like the Strata Corporation owns that data within the software platform, so they pay for a StrataPress or Power Strata, and they hold on to everything internally. And sometimes the new management company they find doesn't use those platforms, but they still use it internally. There's still really good value from having your own management system to handle some of the things that the management company, um, just, you may not want them to just completely manage, right, where you like
Being the
to have
master of your
safety.
own destiny in that sense.
Exactly right.
Let's dive into this participation element.
Yeah,
This is talking about the types of councils, and I
yeah,
got some laughs out of this
yeah.
as we went through these in draft, Ryan. So
Exactly.
why don't you introduce these as we kind of go through each?
Yes. So we have the closed council, which is good in some ways. So I've seen it being effective, but more often than none, this is not the way that you want to go, because it's the type of council that is closed in the sense of they don't like outside input from people. Sometimes, so owners coming to them saying like, "Hey, I got this feedback to give you guys. I'm thinking, why can't we do this or that, or can we get this bylaw, blah 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 blah, or that contractors here, and I saw them doing this," and they go, "No, no, no, please don't get involved, right? We're handling it, thanks, but no thanks," type of thing, right? And sometimes they just don't want the extra effort and time, right? They're, oh my goodness, it's going to take so much time to survey people and talk to people, collect the feedback. We know what we're doing. We have a certain way that we want to do things. And you elected us, right? They sometimes get confrontational in that sense, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so don't as a council, don't take it as negative feedback when people come and try and question what you're doing, right? It's more that they're concerned, right? They and you got to respect that they have their own concerns, and you just try and listen. The best thing a council can do is listen, right? Just like a manager at
This
your company or
uh,
something, right? Where you work,
approach
right?
doesn't align with the transparency that I hear over and over again is critical to
Yes.
effective operation. So,
Exactly, and it creates the conflicts and um, collusion within the strata, right, where people may want to try and overthrow, and it's just so much more drama that it can generate, and it can cost people a lot of money, right? If the councils aren't willing to take in more input or act on things, then you have the feedback council, which is
the
the
opposite.
next, yeah, the opposite, right? They're better. They're not the best, but they're better, right? They're willing to take more input, so they're willing to spend a little more time to hear people out. They take the input generally only at the general meetings, and unless people maybe have a hearing or something, obviously they'll take input there. But they're not really looking for regular town hall surveys, that type of stuff. It's more like, come to us right before the AGM, tell us some things that you want to talk about at the AGM or SGM, and present it at those meetings, and we'll discuss with the ownership, right? So it's much better in that sense, but typically they're still wanting you to be kind of hands off a bit for most of the year and not engage with them too much, right?
Got
They
it.
do follow through on suggestions and stuff, which is great. But yeah, they're not. The next level is this one, transparent council. So they go above and beyond, right? They're soaking in the time, and you can actually reduce time if you do it effectively. But they're putting in that effort to do town halls, bring people up to speed on projects going on, any large scale projects, right? If
Yeah.
it's that time in your strata for maintenance stuff to be happening, or maybe they're in a new strata, but they want to try and have a lot more savings, right? So they're going to have those town halls to try and collaborate with everybody, have more strategic planning, and have surveys sent out to say, "Hey guys, we're thinking to do this or that." With a, like, we want maybe a parcel delivery box or something. What does everyone think about that versus having deliveries to the door? All these types of things. They're really trying to be inclusive and accommodating, and just get ahead of things so that when you have those general meetings, they go really, really quick, right? It's just all the things on the agenda are things that everyone's already being brought up to speed with, except for the few owners that probably they don't pay attention. They probably won't come to those meetings anyways. But the
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
care are going to be at the general meeting, right? And
Well,
they're
I
going to,
spoke about special levies a few weeks ago, and we've had
yes,
other conversations with people about major projects and the town halls that you do before you have your SGM or AGM to approve those major projects is more important, many argue, than the meeting itself, because that's where you
yes,
communicate what's happening, you get that engagement and buy-in so that the meeting is a formality and
yeah.
everyone's well informed.
It's
So how do you get there? How do you build that council, Ryan, that actually works?
For that one, basically, you need to go through and communicate with all the people that are prospective nominees for your council, right? You need to go through, strategize, and understand, who's going to wear different hats. So you want to have a treasurer, a secretary, president, vice president, privacy officer, and these member at larges, right? So treasurers are the people that hopefully would be coming from some sort of accounting background, would be awesome. It's not required. You can be thrown into a treasurer position and not have to have any background like that. Just that it'd be nice if you're a little passionate about learning, right? Going and taking some workshop or training, reading online how best to operate as a treasurer, and help review those financials from from every few weeks, and give feedback to the council.
This makes a huge amount of sense for large stratas, but in
Yeah,
the small strata situation, what's the minimum, Ryan? What are you looking
yeah.
for?
So the small strata, basically, you're looking for people that are going to be engaged with just trying to check off all those boxes of the minimum compliance standards, right? Like make sure that they go through, try and study a little bit of the Strat Property Act, become a little familiar with reviewing that framework, and then being most importantly, really engaging with the owners. That would be the best. Is where these council members try to
Absolutely.
be as engaging as possible. So
So
look
the
for
minimum
people
to meet
that
the
are,
requirements is 3.
yeah, basically.
Perfect.
Right? And the thing is, when you're looking for people, you want to do this before the AGM as much as possible. So whether you're on council or not currently, right? So you could be somebody that's a resident. You're just seeing like, well, the council doesn't seem to be as effective as I think it could be. I want to go around and either help replace the whole council or replace just a few members or add more members. Maybe there weren't all seats
Right.
filled.
Yeah.
Depending what it is, but either way, you're wanting to try and improve the situation. So while you do that, you need to think of time commitments with the prospects, right? Talk to them about that, which you'll see leading up. Will be very important. So time commitments, talk to them about responsibilities, explain what it means to be on council, and it doesn't have to be something that's too scary, right? They put in as much effort as they can, and you really appreciate anyone that comes on council.
Yeah.
But it'd be awesome if they can kind of help um, take on some of those roles that we said, right? Treasurer or president or whatever. And skill
Absolutely.
requirements. You're looking for someone that has those skills, right? The skill set of different types of positions, right? Where maybe they were an accountant or they're a plumber or somebody that works
Yeah.
on a construction site or a lawyer or something, right? Something that really could help with the management aspect of
And
a
nice
treasurer.
complementary skills among
Yeah,
your council,
and
whatever its
even if you
makeup and
have
size is.
like if you have a strata manager, do not think that they're there to do all those things for you. They're not there to be the accountant and everything, even though you're paying them to help facilitate most of those things. But they aren't there to wear all the hats. They're more of an administrator and complement the council, right? And they usually do what the council wants while maybe recommending certain things. But the council should be really active, right? And working with their manager, not just uh, instructing and being a puppeteer to the to
Absolutely.
the
And in
manager,
British
right?
Columbia, you don't get the full undivided attention of a strata manager. They are typically, managing a portfolio of anywhere from 8 to 16 buildings. So you
Yes,
get that fraction of their time, and you've got to make sure that you're using them effectively and leveraging the capabilities of your own strata council to do it. So I'm
yes,
glad you say that they should all come in prepared and be ready. So that's what you're looking for. How
yes.
do we identify the wrong problem?
Yeah. So this is the big issue is sometimes people get on council and you think like, oh wow, they said so many nice things when they were, nominating themselves or being nominated at the AGM, but they didn't seem to come through. So we have the phantom
I
kind
feel
of
this way at the
personality, right?
municipal level, but it
Yeah.
it applies in your strata as well, right?
Yes, right? With it, you have all these personas, right? So
This
the
is my
phantom
favorite image, I
person.
think, Ryan, of the whole deck, just like
Yes. Like, what's going on here? Yeah. And again, I picked these pictures very, to try and accommodate or complement what the persona is. So this is the person that said they're going to really help out and do all these things. And then they're a no show, right? So they don't come to the meetings. They maybe didn't even attend the general meeting, but somebody spoke on their behalf, like, "Oh yeah, so and so said they want to be nominated, and they're very nice, and they have this background. They work in construction. They're able to really help out, or they're a lawyer, whatever." But then, yeah, they don't show up to the meetings, right? Or maybe the first meeting, but that's it. And they don't reply to the emails timely or at all. They're basically a ghost, right? They've ghosted the council and the ownership, and they're
we
not
don't need that.
engaged. Yeah,
Oh,
right. You need people that are gonna follow through and actually try and help out. and then the self server, right? So that's somebody, as you can see, the background image is a image of a tree in a forest, and that tree has really thick roots, so it's been growing very nicely, consuming the energy from the sun. It's got its branches out in everything, right? But there's nothing growing below it, right? So it's a
Yeah.
self server, right? There's people that want to be on council to just get their specific things through their agenda, right? They have certain things that they want, and they want to make sure that no other people jeopardize whatever it is that they want. So maybe they don't want strata fees going up, or they want to, get more amenities in the complex or something, and they're really streamlined and focused to do those things, whatever their objective is, right? But it's not usually something that's holistic and best for the corporation. It's more what's best for them, right?
I don't want to place personas on this, but I get the feeling myself that there are some investor owners that are not occupants in these communities who
Hmm.
often take on this persona. Their bottom line is net operating income. It's
Yes.
not about how the community feels. So, this push for ultra low strata fees, preferring levies where they can put off that cash outflow until the last possible moment. And feeling that depreciation reports are a scam, I see that, and it's just like a dagger to my heart because
Yeah.
in this type of communal living, everyone is enjoying and consuming the common assets
Yes.
together and all at once and over time, and so you've really got to fund the replacement of those capital assets and not pass the buck to the next guy who comes in and buys
Exactly.
your unit.
That's the thing, and we've seen some of those where people have uh, tried to make the place look better and do unauthorized spending as well. So painting up certain things that they probably shouldn't have painted, or changing colors, and like just trying to make the place better right before they sell, right? So it's for them. They've drained funds or something, right?
It
So
kind of
yeah, you
ties in
gotta.
with the spender, right? Because
Yeah,
you're
it's
kind of now
exactly.
going
They're
the other
blending
way
in.
from
But the spender usually still has some sort of self-interest because they're going to still stay at the strata typically, while the self-server may be more nefarious and they're trying to get out of the strata, right? But yeah, the spender is that person that's more easygoing about things, and they don't maybe also care too much about the Strat Property Act and that framework, the legal binding framework, where they're supposed to follow certain things before they make certain
right,
expenditures,
right.
or they're just trying to push on all these things that people may not really want, like hot tubs, or that going around spending money for hot tubs.
Having the right amenities is great, but
Yeah.
there is a level of excess, and then we get
Yes.
on to
More that.
potentially the most nefarious of
Yes.
strata members.
So the dictator, right? They're the, like in the picture, there's the octopus with those hands, and that octopus, as you know, when they grab onto something, it's that's it, right? They've got all those suctions on their fingers, right? So their hands are into everything. They have friends or family usually on council, or people that they can intimidate, right? So they're very wise to choose the certain type of
Right,
nominees that they bring on at the AGM, right? They have their kind of group that they continually try to bring on, because they know that they can get those people to side with them, right? They've got a good hold on those people for whatever reason, right?
yeah.
Or a collective interest, right? If it's family members owning multiple units, and each person gets a seat on council, and they may use tactics like shouting or belittling people, trying to just get in your head, and mental manipulation and stuff, right? Those are the people that you don't really want to be
Well,
leading
there's
the
another level of
council.
politics entirely that I think that you could infer a situation like that. And Ryan, I'll share. I think it was in Ontario. It might have been one of the recent AMCO sessions that they were talking about this type of persona
Yes.
standing in the parking lot and watching his flock enter and leave the property. Right, like it was strange and way past that line.
Yes.
Um, and I know that we're running on in time, so I do want to
Yeah.
keep moving through these slides. I think you've identified some fantastic personas. Let's talk
Yeah.
about this case and this approach.
Yeah. So we'll give it just a few examples, right? So there was this one strata here, which had structural defects on the common property, and then they had the approach of more like patchwork they wanted to do rather than what the engineer was advising. So they did bring in an engineer and had that type of input, and then they said like, no, 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 we want to do it our own way. We're just going to fix this or that, or go with a contractor that says they can do this or that. So they went the cheaper route, and unfortunately that cheaper route did not work out. Right, it can sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You could bring in different engineers and have different debates and do things, and you can do the patchwork and it can work, but it comes at a usually a significant risk. And the outcome is like this one, where an owner went to the courts and said like, hey, this isn't fair to me. I'm not paying into insurance deductibles and other things, and you've I had to move out of my place, and all this stuff that this owner had to go through while the repairs were happening, and the council didn't make the right judgment call, right? So they got
Right.
awarded some money,
Right.
and that cost the strata a lot of money.
Well, yeah, that
So
money
that's a
is
wrong
coming out of
approach.
everybody's pockets. So,
Yeah,
um,
including the owner, who filed, at the courts and won their case, but they're still paying into monthly strata fees and stuff. So it
yeah.
comes out of their pocket too to pay them back. But it always pays off when you don't have to have that drama and go to the courts. It's better usually to do the things the way that the engineers say, right? And again, here's another wrong approach where premiums in the last 5 years were skyrocketing. Right now, this year, we're very fortunate that premiums seem to have come down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Entering
it's not,
another phase, but
yeah,
softer
another
market.
phase of the roller coaster, right? And they didn't come down because everyone's fixing everything. It's a kind of a false hope right now, where people think, oh wow, the insurance came down, but maybe we don't have to fix so much. But no, no, no. Like if you have things on your depreciation report or engineers say need done, please do them, because we're going to have another cycle of that, and you don't want to be hit with all the policy increases and deductible increases that
My
we've
eye
seen.
is just dragged to that bottom where the policy
Yes.
premium went from 80,000 to 300,000 and a
Yes.
six-fold increase in the deductibles. And that's just the double whammy impact on
Oh, yeah.
owners who, first of all, have to pay the higher strata fees for the insurance and then have to pay more for their personal lines coverage to cover the
Yes.
higher deductible.
Oh, yeah. It's a nightmare, right? So
So let's talk about
so
doing it right.
yeah, so let's try and find ways to do it right. So they should be starting early. I actually recommend, and realtors don't like it, but or most don't. But in new stratas, they should try to increase certain areas like the CRF and try and build up that fund early on. And
Yeah.
there's strategies you can use to invest with platforms like Yield Exchange, who help you shop for interest rates on different
Yeah. We
products
should
like
have her on.
GICs. Yeah, right. So you want to be um, thinking about investing early in your strata before that big problems arise. Because when you can save early, then you're going to be able to tackle those projects effectively, and everyone's going to love you as a council member, or whoever's running the council at that time. They're going to love them because they go, well, we have enough money and we have all these projects, and people that want to just like sell eventually, they're going to love it too, right? They're like, oh yeah, any prospect buyer is going to love comparing their place to the other place, because their place is going to be looking good. They're going to be healthy funds ready to fix things, or already fixing things, not having big special levies or any special levies. And there's been
You're touting
some.
at my day job now,
Yeah.
Ryan. It's the whole concept of with an Eli report showing what those upcoming levies are forecast to be based on the health
Yes,
of the
forecast, which
and it's a
is where they bring in
shocking situation,
technology,
right?
right? Yeah, you got to bring
And
in technology like Eli Report to help you give the insights, and the depreciation reports, right? And then just what other, Power Strata, StrataPress, they have their own kind of asset management aspects too in their
I'm
platforms,
gonna
which
cut
are
up
really
to
valuable.
those because you've
Yeah.
got this lovely list. And this is the nice thing about having the founder of BC Strata Tech here is that we've
Yes.
seen it all from the most
Yes.
simple free solutions up to the most complete. So talk to us about
Exactly.
these from the perspective of a Strata Council, Ryan.
Yeah, so there's no excuse basically to not using some form of solution. There's a lot of free things that people can be crafty with Google, the suite that they offer with spreadsheets and whatnot. So people can template out things. They can use this accounting spreadsheet from Vizoa that they create. You pay for the spreadsheet, but it's simple for the little stratas usually that are going to be using it, right? Those
Yeah.
64% of stratas in BC that can't afford strata management, most likely, right? They're going to be loving to use just simple solutions that can really improve their day-to-day operations just by having, putting some things in place. It will be upfront more work because you have to create some of these templates and stuff, or go find them from log into Vizoa or Choa and get the premium templates you could download. But you can use these things to really be effective. And then going the next level up is where you go, you know what, we don't have to do all that homework and stuff all the time. So let's bring in some sort of technology that helps streamline it, right? So
Well, I'm delighted to see that Property Flute itself is willing to offer small stratas
yeah,
their solution. So
exactly, right? Like we know that running like effectively we wanted this to be a self-serve solution when we first started for everybody, but we realized that running these meetings takes a certain finesse when you scale up, especially. So, but for the smaller ones, they can get away with just using Zoom and or Property Flute. And we want to, like, most smaller ones are not going to be our clients, so we figured we'd give away that to the small stratas. So if your strata is 15 units or less, you can run your strata meeting, whether it's council meeting or general meeting like an AGM, SGM, with our
yeah,
platform for free. You still have to provide your own conference solution, or if it's in person, you don't need a conference solution, but you can use the platform to do all the vote tabulation, make sure everything's just handled on the back end from that standpoint, so that you don't have to think about it, right? But that's the
fantastic.
important thing, is there are free solutions and then there's paid ones, and the paid ones are not very expensive, really. When you look at it, it's usually a few cups of coffee that an owner per unit per year may have to pay
Yeah.
for using all those solutions that you bring in, and they add a lot of value. They save you a lot more money through the process of using them and leveraging the power that they have.
And you guys do the managed services, especially for the larger communities yourselves.
Yes. So most of our clients are all managed in the sense that they don't want to have to use the platform. They want to bring us in to manage the platform, and we stopped offering it as a self-serve for certain size stratas. Right, anything 15 or lower can use it, but
Yeah.
above that, you really need us to come in, or we could train your strata manager if they want to sign up and have more of a volume license. Right, but we think it's very important that people do make sure that they're running their general meetings as effective and compliant as possible, because that's where you're
Yeah.
going to be drafting out your budgets, right? And all the bylaws. You really want to make sure that the votes were tallied correctly, right? And that everything's done by the book.
We have a bunch of questions, but we are
Yeah,
basically out of time. Let's just grab a couple that make
for
perhaps the
sure.
most sense given what we've heard from you today. And I love those personalities. I'm sure that those on Strata Council will recognize some of those traits and some of those personas.
Yes.
Um, but are there creative strategies for involving tenants and not just owners in some of these community
Yeah.
activities, Ryan? Like, how do you see that working?
For sure. So usually tenants can, well, if you have a bylaw, sometimes the tenant can actually um, come on council, right? So they could
Oh,
potentially come
interesting.
on council with certain bylaws we've seen. Talk to a lawyer before doing anything like that for sure. But nonetheless, we have seen in some of our clients where they had some tenants come on, and they had certain bylaws for that. And then more practically is the committee type thing, right? Where these tenants can be more engaged with helping out. So maybe landscaping, right? There's tenants that
Yeah.
love to do gardening. You can have a community garden or whatever, and you can leverage that, right? You can have them come in and help out in ways, or just being patrolling the place. If you have some security problems, maybe residents can help out in that way, which a tenant
Yeah,
could
one of
do.
those neighborhood watch type groups. I know I've
Exactly.
seen some other ones on that theme, and we'll be joined next week by Jacqueline Jeffrey, who's going to talk
Oh,
about community
awesome.
and creating it. And I think communities
Yes.
will be a big part of that discussion.
Yes, yes, right. But everybody can partake in helping the community and the Strata Corporation operate effectively, and have that community feel, right? You want to have people collaborating and helping out.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, go to propertyflute.ca to learn more about engaging your strata owners, and we'll have you back again soon. We'll continue
Yeah,
this
thanks for
discussion
having me on.
and dive a bit deeper. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, thanks. Take